If you can hear me, can you just type in the keypad? I just want to know. Thank you. Right, so tonight will be the last class, and we'll be discussing a few things. I'm not even sure what screen I'm sharing at the moment, but I want to go to my slide. Right, okay. So tonight is going to be the last class. From the beginning, we said is an introduction to manual testing. Manual testing is the beginning of testing, and from that you can move on to automation. But this is just so tonight will be the last class. So tonight I'll be looking at a few things I know I haven't discussed in the past. So I'll be looking at a few testing techniques quickly. I'll just look at the first two, which is the boundary value analysis and the equivalence partitioning. The remaining two you can actually read on your own. But then apart from that, we'll also be talking about the Azure DevOps. We'll be writing a few test scripts, and we'll be running those tests, as well as raising defects if we find any defects for those tests. So it's more or less like an end-to-end basically testing that we want to do today. So apart from discussing what the testing techniques are, we're going to just make sure we do some testing. From the Azure, we'll do some, from the Azure DevOps, which is the test management tool, we do some testing, which from the giftfit.com site, and then from there we write our test cases, and then we raise the defect. So it's going to be hands-on, but well, I'm the only one who will be doing the demo for this evening. So before I go on, I was just going to say quickly, because this is the last class, I'll just give you people a few things to read up on. So if you want to continue on the journey with the software testing, manual testing, it's best to chat with the school. The school will decide, Blue Sky, they will decide whether you're qualified for the internship, and the internship would of course be intense for people who want to carry on. And then in fact, Azure DevOps and all these other testing techniques and everything I've mentioned in my lecture since we started might be discussed in depth at that time. So before, let's just start the lecture. So tonight I said I was just going to discuss the boundary value analysis and the equivalence partitioning, which is some testing techniques that I haven't mentioned to you guys in the past. Now, what do we mean by boundary value analysis? So when we talk about boundary value analysis, we are talking about testing on the boundaries. So when we talk about boundary value analysis, we mean is a type of technique that we test on the value on the boundary. We test below the boundary, we test on the boundary, and above the boundaries. What do I mean by that? I can actually use some explanation for that. Let me get my notepad, because if I don't write this down, you might not understand. So let me get my Word document. Let me just move this down quickly. So say for example we have a field, and this field for example says insert a table here. Yeah, so this field, for example, it says age. Yeah, so we are calculating. Let's say we are calculating an age for a particular field. You know what I mean by field, anyway. And they say the age that can go into that particular field, if you are between 18, if you are 18 to 54 or 59 to 56, you'll be qualified for this particular field. Now, if you are to test this, the valid scenario for this would obviously be 18 and 56. Hold on 1 second, please. Okay. So The values for these fields, as I was saying, the values for this field are between 18 and 56 for a particular field. Right. Now, if I'm testing this, so the values here, for example, we're doing the boundary value analysis. Let's say boundary value analysis. So this would be my valid, actually, sorry, this should be up. Let's go down. So because it says 18 to 56 in the field, this will be my valid, so I'll be testing this, yeah? Obviously, everybody would know this. This will be my valid testing that I'll be testing. I'll be testing things like numbers like 18. I'll test 18. I'll test 19. I'll test 20. I'll even test maybe 30 because they are all, remember, they are also within the value, accepted valid values, which is 18 and 56. Then I'll till 56. Then I'll be testing maybe 55. And then I'll test 56 in that field. Now, for an invalid scenario here, I would test for anything invalid, I would use number 57, for example. And for invalid here as well, I will use the value 17. Remember I said for boundary value analysis, you are testing below the boundary, which is 17. The boundary here is 18 to 56. You are testing below the boundary, on the boundary, and above the boundary. So if you test all these numbers, for example, you'd know it will pass. But you might even test that, and the field will accept 56. The field is not supposed to accept, sorry, 57. The field is not supposed to accept 57, but it might accept. If it accepts, for example, is a defect. So that's what I mean by boundary value analysis. You are testing below the boundary, on the boundary, and above the boundaries. Now, the next one I want to discuss here also is something we called equivalent partition. You can read this up, you can search this up, read it up on Google, go to Google 99. So equivalent partitioning, actually, equivalent partition I call it. So equivalent partitioning is similar to the boundaries, to the boundary value analysis, like I said. So using the same example, if I'm doing if I'm doing the boundary value analysis, my valid input here is the same here. Yeah, and my invalid is the same here. I think I should just copy this box so you see what I'm saying. Oops, I keep using this. Wait. Oh, Mac. So for equivalent partitioning, that I called it, yeah, you'll be testing the valid boundaries. Now here you'll be testing anything greater. You'll be testing anything greater than 56, which is the invalid boundary. But you test things like anything greater than 57. You will test things like 58. You will test using 60. You will test using 70, for example. The same thing here. You'll be testing any value under 17. You'll be testing anything under 17 in that field to see whether it accepts it. Now, because they said it's equivalent partitioning, it means we'll partition a system in such a way that we want to test. So say, for example, if you're doing equivalent partitioning, you cannot partition your system in such a way that you cannot test values 18, for example, all the way to 56. What I mean is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. You can't test all those fields. So the only way to test and make sure you partition make sure you partition the test in such a way that you would know whether it will accept the valid values, the invalid values, anything greater than the invalid values, and anything under the invalid values. So here you'll be testing 16, you'll be testing 16, no, not 17, 16, 15 actually. You'll be testing like 7, 8, 9, 10, anything below the boundaries here, which is 18. And that's the simplest explanation I can give for that. But of course, you can read it up, maybe you understand it better. The only way to explain, so these are the main techniques that we tend to use within testing. Although there are other techniques, my years of experience, I haven't used other techniques before, apart from these two. These are the main ones that we tend to use. Now, last week we had a discussion about test management tool and defect management tool. Now, one of the test tools that is trending now is called the Azure DevOps. So before I say that, what do I mean by test management? Let me just change my screen again. Sorry, I might be struggling with my screens. Right. Right, so what do I mean by test management? Of course, test management refers to the activities we perform that we use to manage our testing, our test cases, our test plan, our test. In terms of Agile, we use sprints, we use scrums, our board, our work item, our backlog, product backlog if we have any, and stuff like that. Then in terms of the defects management tool, how do we manage our defects? We keep our defects, we record them, we know how many tests has passed, for example, test status, we know how many has passed, we know how many has failed, and so that's when Azure DevOps comes into play. So, you find me navigating a lot during this time. I'm just trying to see, right, and this is when Azure DevOps comes into play. Looking for the one to use. Right. So, as a test analyst, the first thing you'll be doing now, depending on the company that you're working, you might work in the company whereby they have already set up everything for you. But in case they haven't set it up, they would assume, because within testing, if you're a test analyst and you've done testing, you need to understand how to use a test management tool. You must have either used Jira, either used Bugzilla, ALM, HPALM. There are all sorts actually, but right now Azure DevOps is the one that is trending. And if you've used one, you'll be able to use another because they are easy to use. It's the same concept of inputting your test cases, same concept of writing your test cases, referring to your requirements, and then from your requirements, your test scenarios, and then from the test scenarios, of course, getting your test cases, running your tests, doing the test, recording the results. So, but the first thing you might be asked to do if you're doing testing is to manage or is to create your project. So let's call our project, for example, let's call this project, I'll call it new project, for example. Yeah. And what does this new project, give it a brief description. This is to test project to test so this is testing, so we can just be testing the gift rates website because that's what we're doing in this test. That's the brief description. And then we create the project. Now, so within this project, what do we start doing? We've got our board. So from our board, we can see everything we want to do here. Either we want to start creating work items. The board would actually give you a broad view of everything. When I say everything in terms of planning, tracking, how do you discuss your work across the team, is similar to Kanban, basically. Your backlog, your dashboard, that's what your board would do. So by the time we finish creating this, you see your board. Your board will give you like a broad view. It's like more or less like your dashboard. It will give you a broad view of everything, so you know what is pending or the status of your testing, and everything will be seen via the board. But if we come, for example, let's come to work items. Now, before I create work items, let me just go to backlogs. So when I create backlogs is more or less like a, let me name that's the name of my project. So within that, if I create my new work item, my work item is more or less like my scenario, my requirement. So for my requirement, I've gotten my scenario. My first scenario here, more or less like a user story, exactly. So my first scenario here would be, I've created a spreadsheet, and my spreadsheet, let me just go to that. Oops. Okay. I wanted my Word document. Okay. So my first test case that I want to create, for example, is the Azure. I want to register. Remember last week we did some of these scenarios. So I'm just going to copy this, for example. Copy this. So I just say, for this one now, I'll call this one register. Or registration page, I'll just say register. Yeah? And within that, if I open that up, I've got my description. And my description, I've got my description. What do I want to do? I want to register to So I want to register to the Gift Treat website. And then my acceptance criteria, I'll have to paste all this, unfortunately. So if I want to register, for example, I want to paste this actually. Let's see if I can. See if I can paste. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. So this is what I want to do. So that's my acceptance criteria. I've pasted everything in here. So the scenario is I want to register so that I can use the Gift Treat website. So I've broken this down, given I'm on the Gift Treat website. So let's go to the Gift Treat website. So this is you writing your scenarios, right? And you've written that and you save that. Now you can go back into that, click back onto that. Now you want to do what? You want to start adding your steps onto that. So, but before I add my steps, actually before you click on it, you go to here, and then you now add your, before I do that, I'm just going to go to the Gift Treat website first of all. My website, so I open it, okay. There's so many things I've opened. Okay, let me change my screen view. Just going to close this for a moment. Right, so, right, okay. Can you still see my screen? So, what did I say I was going to do? I said I was going to register. And for me to register, I said I was going to register so that I can use this website. And for me to register, what do I need to do? I need to click on register, which is obvious. So the first thing I'll do is I click on register, and we need to write the steps down. So once I click on register, on the register button, which my scenario says here, my scenario says, given I'm on the Gift Treat website, that's the Gift Treat website, and I click on register. So let's say here, for example, and I enter, I can read that, and I enter my first name and my last name and my email address. and my mobile number. And then I create a password. And I confirm password. Now, in life, we do, oh, they're not the same. Okay, sorry. And then I click my captcha, and then I click sign up. Apparently, I have signed up, so I'm just going to log in. So let's assume that I've registered. I've registered to this website, so I don't need to sign up newly. But if you haven't registered, this is what you'll be doing. Putting in, oh God, now I've tapped on this. So putting in all the details that is required, and of course, you'll be registered. Now, I need to go back to my other screen. I need this to go into the website first. At least stop this. How do I stop this? Okay, let me just click login. Right, so because I've registered, let's just assume I have registered. Right, so I go back, because I've registered, I can log in. So I'll go back to my DevOps, which is, sorry guys, I might be struggling with screen this night. Where is my other? Yeah, it's on here. Right. So this is exactly, so I've defined here, I've actually defined my priority. So you can see initially, 2 weeks ago, I was talking about, I'll increase this. I need to increase this. I need to drag this up. Okay, I can't. Right. I was talking about assigning priorities to your test cases. So the priority has been assigned for this one, for example. Let's give it priority 1, because what we want to do is we want to do all this. We want to be able to log into the site. So I click that. We've created a requirement. And within that, we can now add our test case to that. If I can close it. Trying to drag this up. Right. So register to, let's see, I'll register gift treat. Website. Right, so that's the requirement. And then within this, so if I want to view this as a board, like I said earlier, because I've created this, let's quickly have a look at this. Sorry. So within this, I can view this now as a board. The first thing we've done is register to the gift treat website. So for this, I want to add my test case. I'll just say add test. Now my test, what do I want to test? Test. What do I want to test? Test that I can register. Maybe the first, I think the ideal topic, the ideal thing to give the requirement for this scenario should, let me just change this actually. Let me change this to just say registration. Registration. Yeah. So here, I'll just say test that I can register on the gift rate website. Now you start writing your steps. That's your title. That's your test case. Now you start writing your steps. Step 1, log on to the gift rate website, which is what I've shown you quickly when I went to gift rate website. Expected result. No, actually, sorry, not log on. For us to register, we need to click on, we need to navigate before we log on, actually. So we need to navigate to the gift rate website. Expected results, successfully log on. You should be successfully, or should be successful actually. Expected should be successful. And what's the actual result? The actual result was successful. So the actual result was successful, yeah? Then the next step would be, so this is used to insert steps. And this is used to move the step back. So I can move the step up. So when we navigated to the gift rate website, what did we do? Click on the register button. Click on the register button. And when we clicked on the register button, what happened? I think the registration page, if I'm guessing, I'm not guessing, you don't guess in testing. I'm just remembering what, I think the registration page should be displayed. If we go back to that site, I keep opening it. Sorry, that's the wrong button. If we go back to that site, our gift rate site, which is here, when we click on the registration, is the registration homepage that would open. And what would we see? We would see on the registration page, it will ask us for our name, input first name on the registration form. So click on the register button, registration page should be displayed. Input or enter first name. You know what, let me go to my scenario. So enter first name, enter last name, enter email address. So first name, last name, email address, password, then you'll be registered. So let me go back to, so enter first name or input first name. Should enter successfully, something like that. Or should be success. No, actually it's expected result. So should be. You always use should be. Is when you do the actual thing. This is just writing the test cases before you actually do the testing itself. So should be successful. Then input last name in the last name field. This one too should be successful. Then input email address. Should be successful. Then input or enter password. Should be successful. Then confirm password. And the last step is click on, oh, I can't make my screen big. Okay. And the last step is click on secure login. I think it's secure login button or something like that, yeah? Now, when we do that, I don't know whether a message will be displayed that you are registered, I think. Let's just say message you are registered should be displayed. Registered. Should be displayed. Right. So our test cases, for example, will look something like this. Our test cases will look something like this. And these are our test cases. But from the view, this is the item. So from the beginning, you've written this. Now, if we are testing, we've actually written this. Now, if we decide to test this, we'll have to run this test. So when we run the test, we right-click on these breadcrumb things here. We right-click on these breadcrumbs things here, then we run the test. Now, when you are running the test, you don't run here. Whilst you are running here, you physically go to the website. You physically go to the Gift-Rich website. You go to the website and do exactly what you said you do. That's how you test. So you come here, you look at the registration field. Let me just log out so I can actually so we can view that again. I don't even know if I'm wrong. So from the actions that we said here, all the things that we've written here, all these actions, input the first name, input last name, we'll do everything on the website. So click on the registration button. We navigate to the site and we click on the register button. Then we input our first name here and we record the result. So when I inputted my first name, I have registered, and that's why I don't want to do this again because I've already registered. So when I put my first name, my last name, my email address, my mobile number, oh, I missed that actually. I forgot that. My mobile number, my password, and my confirmed password. Then of course we cannot test the captcha bot because this is a live environment. If it was a real test environment, we won't have this. So, but of course, click the captcha to validate and then sign up. So once you do that, this should be sign up anyway. So once you do that, then you can now come here. When you are running your test, as I was saying, when you are running your test, that's actually how you do it. You now go to the board itself and then run your test and actually do everything you're supposed to do within that. Now let me go back to, I want to change my view here so I can actually run my test. I can't run my test from here. I can run my test from the work item. Let me just close this for a second. So I can run my test from here. So you click on the breadcrumbs here. This is actually where we are in the backlog view. You can actually see that. So you click on your crumbs, on your breadcrumbs, and you run your test. So when you run your test, another dialog box will open. I'm waiting for that dialog box. I can't see it. I just clicked on my test now. So when you click run test here, oh, pop-up blocked. And oh, sugar. How do I unblock pop-up? Okay, sorry, I don't know what is wrong with my laptop. I can't actually unblock the pop-up, but that's actually supposed to open another box for you when you say run test here. But however, because I can't use run text on this laptop, I'll just do pass test. because it's passed. I know it's passed. So now, because it's passed, you will see a tick here to say it's passed. And there's another tick there where so all you can see now, it says 1 passed, 0 failed, and others. Now this would now move because you are using this this view, this backlog view. Initially, if is a defect, let's just say we raise a defect against this now. Let's say this failed. Let me change this to fail, for example. So I'm not changing. Let's say for argument's sake, I'm going to change this to fail. This didn't pass. I don't know if I can fail this. No, I can't fail this. I think because I've recorded this as pass, I can't fail it. Okay, let's add another item that I can fail. So let's say login. So login, for example, for argument's sake, would fail. So the new item we've created is login, and we want to now add test cases to that. So the acceptance criteria for login is, I need to go to my Word document. So the acceptance criteria for login is, let me just copy all this. And I'll paste that there. That's my acceptance criteria. So what do I need to do to log in? So I need to, the scenario says, I want to log in so that I can view the gift rate homepage. Now, given I am on the gift rate homepage, which is this one, when let me move this out of the way. When I click on login, oh, this is so in the way, and I input my email address and my password and click on secure login, then I should be registered. I mean, then I should log in. Then I have to view the login page. I think that's what I said. So now, but for argument's sake, let's say this failed. So we want to fail this test so that I'll be able to show you how to raise a defect against this. So we've done all this. We've saved it, and I've decided to add my test on it. So my test will be test. So test, I can log in, yeah? So I'll click on that and I had my steps. So how do you log in? Given you click on the login, okay, so the first step to do is click, after your registration, click on the login button. Should be successful. Let me see if I can just copy and paste. And input email address, enter email address. Should be successful. And enter. Was it password? What did we enter? I don't remember. Okay. What did my scenario say? So my scenario says, I need to go back. Let me just save this. I can't remember what the scenario says. So the scenario says, okay, so login, enter email address, password, click on secure sign in. Right, okay, then I'm logged on. Okay, email address, password, secure sign in. Okay. So let me go back to my test. So on my test, right, I was still writing this, yeah. So enter email address, enter password. That should be successful as well. Then the last step, click on secure sign in. Let's say we've entered, so we entered our email address, we entered our password, and we clicked on secure sign in. For some strange reasons, we couldn't sign in. So this should be successful. However, when we run our test, it will fail. So I save that and I come here to the screen and I click on the 3 breadcrumbs and I run my test. Well, I've blocked popped up, so this can't pop up, sorry. And I'm not sure how to unblock it. Then I now fail this test. So we have one failed test. Just looking at it there, if you hover over it, it will say 0 passed, 1 failed, and others. So if you hover over this bottle, that's the test case. It will show you the status of the testing. So for this one now, we know it's failed. Now what do we do for this one? We now go back and we add an item. So, or we can still add an item from here based on this. So this item that we want to add is, no, I don't want to add, I want to add another item, but my item, I want to add it from here because I want you to see that it's a, so I want to give a different view. So this work item will give me a different type. So the work item I want to add here on my work item, if I hover on that and I add item, I will now add a bug. And the bug I want to add is, what's the bug? I cannot log on. Secure sign-on, no. What did we perform? It was the secure sign-on that failed. Everything else was okay, so cannot log in anyway. So cannot log in after, maybe after registration, or cannot log in. That's your defect. That's your bug. Now, here you now have to write your steps to reproduce. So when you are raising defects, you have to write exactly. Can everybody still see my screen? I know I keep dragging this thing up and down. So when you raise a defect, you have to say exactly what it is. I just want to see. Yes, thanks. So when you raise a defect, you have to say exactly the steps to reproduce. So it says repo steps. So the steps to reproduce. So actually, no, you first say what the defect is. Defect or bug cannot log in. Steps to reproduce. Step 1, or maybe step to reproduce, even without saying step 1, you can just say step 1. Click step 1. Click on the login button. Step 2. What was the next activity? Click on the login button, input email address or enter email address. Step 3. Enter password. Then step 4, the one that failed, was the enter password. Did we confirm password? The one that failed was step 4. Click on secure sign in or sign in. Yeah, expected result. I should be logged in. Or I should be logged in successfully. Or logged in successfully. Or I should be logged in. Actual results, because this is the one that failed, and you want the developer, whoever is going to look at this defect, to actually see and be able to reproduce exactly what you did. So here you would now say expected result, actual result. Maybe there was an error that was displayed or cannot log in. So let's just leave it as cannot log in because we just said that's what we said. So cannot log in. and you log that like that. Now, you now come to the severity. Remember earlier when I was 2 lessons ago, I said the priority is determined by the BA and the severity is determined by the test analyst. Now, this automatically defaults to medium, but I will not give this a medium because I cannot log in. It's not a medium priority. I'll give this either high or critical. So I'll either give this high or critical. But because I cannot log in, and for me, if I can't log in, I'm not able to do anything because remember we registered. Once we've done the registration, we should be able to log in onto that website before we can start doing things on the website. But because I can't do anything on that website, I'm going to give this critical. And then critical, of course, you would have agreed what the defect process is. Are they going to look at this immediately? But because you've named it critical, they should know that this will take maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, depending on the SLA, depending on what you've agreed. But I'll give this a critical step simply because I can't log in, it means I can't do anything on that website. So, or I can't even do my testing. I'm supposed to test the website, remember? And if I cannot log in, it means I can't even look at anything on the website. So for this one, I'll give it a critical, and then I'll save it. Now, there are other links here. You can still use this like this. You can add this to an existing item, for example. Say, for example, you've raised this defect that we raised it against this work item. This defect, we raised it against cannot log in work item. Now, so let me go back to that defect. So this defect, I can actually add the link here and actually add it to an existing. I can't remember the ID, but if I click on it, it will bring out some stuff for me. And I know it's the login. Was it the login? Yeah, it was the login. So we can actually link it to that and say, okay. So anybody looking at that, because you've linked it here to the requirement, which is login requirement, is easy to view that, oh, there's a defect raised against that. Now, if you raise another defect as well, I'm not sure you can do a two-way login, two-way link. But if you raise another defect as well, maybe for another scenario, you can actually just add it as well, link it here, so that just looking at it here, you know it's a child to the login. Is a child to the login requirement here, and then you save that. So going back to your work item, you can actually see that you've done a few work items. You've done your test. This indicates test. This indicates a bug. So these are the work items that we've got to do. We've got registration. We've got our test here, and then we've got our login. So this was what I was talking about when I say if you look at the board, it will just give you. If you look at the board is here, it will give you like an overview, a quick overview of your work, what you've done. So here we've done our user stories. We've done just 2, and these are the 2 that we've done. And then depending on how you set your board, depending on how your board has been configured, you can actually look at it and have a general overview of what's going on without necessarily going into any testing. But then just looking at this, you can see 2. That means 2 users. If you hover over it, you see that if you hover over it, you see that it's user story 2, and of course this one says 1 bug. Any questions? Please type in the keypad if there are any questions. Now, I was going to actually show you, before I start taking questions, I was actually going to show you, so going by this, usually you can actually come here and decide to write a test plan. So you can come here, decide maybe not to use the board, depending on what you're using. Maybe if you don't want to use the board, you can actually decide to come here, because it depends on the methodology that you are using, the way you work. But most people are practicing the agile methodology now. However, if you just want to come here and then you just want to add your tests without, or add your requirements, so you will be able to create a test plan, and then from the test plan you can create your test and run your test. And I'm not sure why I can't run my test. But anyway, if you come here to the test plan, you'll be able to actually do that. Now, I thought I had a document there's a screenshot that I took simply because I don't have so basically I don't have the right to run tests. You have to purchase, you have to buy. But so Azure DevOps, there's a bit that is free, is the basic that is free, but basic and the test needs to be purchased for some amount of money. But anyway, for you to add your test, you have to come here and click on the test and add the test. You see a plus button around here, and then you add your test, your requirements, and then from your requirements you start adding your test like we had it. So if you click on this, for example, this is the one that we've done initially. In fact, this one says run. I still don't know whether I can run this. Oh, it says there are no active tests because I haven't added the text here. Let's see, but these are my tests now. This one has passed, for example, but this one I can't run it again. If I decide to run this again, I can't because I've already run this. But normally if I click, can either run it. So what I'm trying to say is that you can either run your test from the work items here by having your work item, or you can actually come here to the test plan and run your test here. It depends on how the Azure DevOps has been set up for you. But I like to use both ways, but the one I like to use most is my test plan, because my test plan, by the time I run my test here from my test plan, I can actually click on a chart that will give me like an overview of what I've done, what passed, what failed. If I go to my charts and if I configure it very well, this will tell me what passed, what failed, what passed, what failed, what I need to do. So this has to be configured, maybe like a pie chart or something. I'm not too vast with with configuration. You have to have admin skills. I mean, very good in doing this. But of course, if I play with it, I haven't just played with this. If I do, I would have been able to do this. So depending on the number of test cases, you can actually see the overview of how many test cases you've run, how many failed, the status of it. Let me just show you here. So I was going to do this. Let me change my 1 second. I was going to increase, so I want to share my select items to share. Alright, okay, I was going to share, not that one. I was going to share this. Right, yes, there, that. Right, can you see? So this is the state. This is exactly what I'm trying to say. If you can see this new, so from your test plan, you would actually tell you how many test cases you've passed, how many failed, how many not run. So you can actually plot a graph to be exactly like this. And this, for reporting sake, if you are a test analyst and your manager has asked you to report, to do some reports on some testing and stuff like that. Can I have the status of testing, for example? You want to show how many has passed, how many have failed, and stuff like that. Maybe out of 100 test cases, you can actually come onto charts, configure your charts, and then you'll be able to produce something like this. You just have to define what you need to see maybe in the y-axis and the x-axis, what you need to see, you know. Well, one needs to be planned. One needs to be displayed horizontally or vertically, basically. And that's why I just wanted to show you this. I can't physically do it on my own computer. I mean, on my own version of Azure. But then this is the look. It should actually look something like this. And that can actually be copied and pasted in Word or copied and pasted in Excel to do a good defect. Or do a good test execution or test status reports. So it's very simple. This is how Azure DevOps look. So at the end of the day, all your work items will be added here. You will know what is there to be tested, or what all those indications. This indicates a test case, and this indicates a user story, and that indicates a bug. So yeah, there are some things that will tell you, and the same thing even when you go to the project itself. Well, even when you go to the very beginning, which is the project, if I can click on the project, yeah, all these icons actually signify something. That's the test plan, and I think one of this is your board. So you can actually see, just from that, if you click on this, it will take you to the test plan. If you click on the other one, it will take you to, if you click on this, it will take you to your board. Are there any questions? Right, okay. Yes, we can. Can we generate a test summary report in Azure DevOps? Yes, we can. And that's exactly what I've showed you. So your test summary reports will be generated from here. Your test summary report cannot be generated from these logs. No. From the backlog, no. All these ones. It cannot be. And in fact, sometimes, I forgot to say this, sometimes depending, so let's say for example, your requirement, I will answer that question in a minute, but sometimes this is your requirement says login, and the requirement has been approved. You can actually click and drag that from here. So you can drag it from there to here before we do the testing. And then maybe it's a defect. You've raised the defect, for example, is a new item, and someone is looking at the defect. Now you drag it to active, and then the defect has been resolved. You drag it to there. And of course, remember, we have to assign it to somebody. In this case, I can't really assign to anyone because I haven't created any other users on this DevOps. I think I'm just basically the only user here, so I can't really assign it. But then when you now do your testing, because it says result here, when you do your test or your retest and it's passed and you've now closed it, then it comes to close, because now you are satisfied that, and of course the status will say close here. Now you are satisfied that, so it's moved your work item or your product backlog has moved from here to there. It means when it's here and it's closed, close will mean complete. I think in your SLAs as well, some organization will define what they mean by close, so that when you come to your product backlog view here, once something says closed, you know it's closed. But once it's here, for example, maybe once it's active, some people will say ready to test. So this, depending on how you define your status, this is new, active, resolved, closed. So it's looking more like a defect thing for this. But normally, if it's a test or something, or if they're building a functionality, they will say new, approved, ready to test, tested, then closed, or something like that. So it depends on how this keys, this menu on top, depends on what it actually means. But in this case, this looks more, for me, I would say this looks more like a defect, active, resolved, closed. So it's more like a defect definition for this one. Yeah, so like your work, for example, if this was a work item and is active, it means it's been approved, it comes here. Then the next thing, the status will be maybe ready to test. And of course, if you come in the morning, you as a test analyst, all you'll be looking for anything that is here ready to test. Remember, when it's new, maybe it's just a new thing, the acceptance criteria has not been completed when it's here, and then maybe when it's here, it's active or it needs to be approved, depending on how your organization works. But then when it comes here and it says ready to test, you will know that, yeah, this is what you should be looking at. So I will come in the morning and I'll pick up any work that is in here ready to test for me. And of course, depending on what work I do, and it's just two, I use this as an example, but usually you can have hundreds. But remember also, it depends on how, it depends on your sprint. So you would have defined your sprint cycle. You would have defined your sprint cycle to say maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. In most cases, the sprint is usually 2 weeks. Sprint is just a period of work, 2 weeks. So you have a few work that you need to do, maybe functionalities to build. So they will look at the effort taken and they will put maybe they will put maybe 50 or depends on maybe 10 work. I mean, when I say work, 10 work items in there for 2 weeks. And within that 2 weeks, all those 10 work items, we will look at them. The developers will develop. This is Agile I'm talking about. The developers will develop. You would test. You will raise defects. The developer will resolve the issue. You will retest. You will do your regression testing. You will do your regression testing within that. So within your sprints, if you look at within the sprint, maybe you have like 50 issues, for example, here, 50 work items. All you will be looking at as a tester is what is in this box, which says ready to test. Right now, that's all you'll be bothered about, because you want to come in the morning, look what's in there, ready to test for me, and then you click on it and you read what the issue is all about. What the work item is, and you do what you are supposed to do. And of course, as you do it, you move it on to maybe close or pass, depending on what the status of these buttons are. It will vary from organization to organization. Yes, I would say Azure DevOps is mostly used for Agile. However, if you don't want to use it for Agile, this was what I was talking about initially. If you don't want to use it so it's mostly used for Agile and automation. However, you can use it for manual testing, mainly manual, but you have to come here. When I say manual, which is not Agile, you have to come here, put your test. So your test plan will be in terms of your requirements. And then you can add your requirements here, but I don't have the permissions to add them. Otherwise, I would have had them. You can add your requirements here, and then you now do your test cases as well. And that's why I showed you the screenshot I showed earlier. And the screenshot, so with the screenshot I showed earlier was just within, if I can show that again, let me just quickly have a look. Now I'm just going to be going through. Look, I'm not too good at navigating tonight, but I showed you a screenshot earlier. Or you know what you can do? You can actually Google or go to YouTube and watch. It's either TFS or Azure DevOps. And TFS was the previous version, but now they've called it Azure DevOps. It's just an upgrade version of TFS. So TFS Test Management Tool. Do a Google on it. On YouTube. And you can watch a tutorial on it. It will tell you exactly what you can do with the test plan. So within the test plan, you can put your requirements in there, and then within your requirements, you start writing your test cases. So the test plan is mainly used for manual testing. While the what was the question? Azure DevOps. Well, while the bot is mainly used for the agile methodology, but Azure DevOps is used as a test management tool and as a defect management tool. So can you send your scenarios from the Excel spreadsheet to Azure DevOps? Yes, you can. It's just a matter of copying and paste. But I've soon realized that you have to, when you are copying and pasting into Azure DevOps, especially when you are writing your test scripts, you have to use the Control V to paste. You cannot paste using your menu. So it's usually the Control V. So on the lecture is, sorry, I'm just trying to read the question. Okay, lecture is because so you can, yeah, okay. Can I wait? So can I summarize the step-by-step way to use Azure DevOps as a, yeah, okay. So the step-by-step way to use Azure DevOps is, I started by creating a project, by adding a new project here, by adding a new project. So you start by creating your project if the project hasn't been created, and then you click onto the project. Once you've created it, you click onto the project, you had a description, which I added earlier if you watched the video. Then from that, you now start coming to your board, and then you click on that. So you had your work item. Your work item might be, you might define it as a feature or as a user story. I've used user story in this case, but user story, feature, epic, they are all the same thing. It's more or less like your requirement or your test scenario. So, and then from that, you can now click on that, and then you now start adding your test cases in there. So this one, I've done it exactly like my scenario. My acceptance criteria is in there, and this is the scenario I want to run. That's my acceptance criteria. And then once I've done that, I save it, I close it. I now go back, and I add my test cases onto that. If you come here, click on the crumbs. Actually, you got to go in. And then you actually had your test cases, and then you run your test cases. The only way you run your test cases is by physically doing it, and I actually did that in this video, so which means you have to go back to the history which is the website that we are testing. You go onto the gift site itself, you click on it, and you do everything that you are supposed to do, which is this action. Everything here, which is in your acceptance criteria, you do all that, you pass it or you fail it, depending. But once you pass it, it's passed, and once you fail it, you raise a bug. And the bug you raised was example, I used as an example is this one. And once you raise the bug, you want to write the defects and give it a title, a meaningful title, and say exactly what you did, which is usually the steps to reproduce. And that's why I've written all that. The steps to reproduce is good. Say, for example, you've tested something, or you've actually tested something, you've taken a screenshot. In most cases, I take a screenshot of what I'm testing when it fails. Even when it passes, I take a screenshot too. But it depends on where you're working. Some people frown at you when you don't take screenshots. But when it fails, where I'm working now, where it fails, I take a screenshot. When it passes, I don't bother. But depending on where you're working, I've worked in places whereby I have to keep my screenshots on my Excel spreadsheet, because some of them will say, was it tested? When it fails, they will ask you, did you test it? You know, and for you to prove that you tested it, you need to take a screenshot. You can use the snip tool, or you can use a print screen. Now, most applications, most test management tool or defect management tool, they do have, let me have a look in this bug thing. I'm trying to see if there's a camera. They do have a camera whereby you can actually click on it and it will just record your steps, everything you did. I'm not sure this one, I don't know whether Azure DevOps has. I'm just going to quickly have a look. So instead of taking a screenshot, there's a button that you press and it will automatically take the screenshot for you. I haven't seen anyone in Azure. I don't think we do have that. Or you guys can research that, whether Azure DevOps has a way of capturing capturing your screen, capturing screenshots when you're actually testing. So, but that's the only way. So you now log your defects here, and then you now assign the defects. But I haven't created any other user because of the access I've got is a bit restricted. Otherwise, I would have assigned it. But in most cases, you assign it to somebody, the person who would look at it, or you can actually add a comment. You can comment to say, maybe to say system information, systems a bit slow or something like that. Or you can add a comment for discussion. Or you can now put in the build where you found it. You can actually, or integrated with which build. You can put more information. But in this one, it hasn't been configured. You can, so when you click on the drop down, maybe it says system info. It might even say it was found in the UAT environment and stuff like that. Okay. So yeah. So the only way you use Azure DevOps for automation is to automate the process, maybe to write codes. Maybe to write codes, and of course you can actually integrate. So Azure DevOps can be integrated with a lot of other tools as well. I know it can be integrated with SQL, for example, and I also know that you can integrate it with any other tool to run, so that when you are writing your test cases, you are running them they are automated basically. So you just run them. So I'm sure it integrates with any other tool. You can actually find out on YouTube. Do we still need to write test cases? Yes, we do need to write the test cases. Say, for example, what I've shown you, if you watch the video back, it will just tell you the steps within that. And that's why, apart from writing the scenarios, you still need to write the steps, because you need to show the steps. Because when you are passing or failing your test, or running your test, you are running individual steps. You can't just say, yes, this is my scenario. You have to be able to write the test cases, because when you are raising your defect, you are raising your defect against, especially if it's one step. Say, for example, you are running your test cases and 4 steps passed, and it's the last step that failed, or maybe the middle step failed. Everything failed, but within those steps, you run them one by one to say, this is the one that passed and the one that failed. I'm not sure why I can't, otherwise I was just going to do a run, for example. Test runs. I can't do test runs because my laptop says I don't allow pop-ups. So I don't know how to take that off. Sorry guys. Otherwise I would have shown you. But like I said, you can go onto YouTube and watch how to do the test run. So when you are running the test, a pop-up will come. It will define all your steps, the steps that you've written. It will come, take them one by one, and then you can run that one by one. It's best to do them one by one because that would now show you which step failed and which step passed, instead of just doing them. Yeah, so it's just best to do them one by one. So when you are running the test, it will run on this one. When you say run test, it will show you the first one, and then you say, as you now tick pass. Second one you say pass, third one you say pass, first one you might say fail. Oh, okay. Can I? Okay, hold on a second, please. Let me just see. Hold on a second, please. Guys, I just had to do a few, remove my pop-ups and stuff like that. So sorry, I just wanted to show you guys how to run the test, and I'm sorry about this. This took a while, longer than I envisaged. Right, so as I was saying, so let's say, for example, although let's ignore the fact that we failed this particular test that I can log in. So if I come to this is my test plan, and I click on this run. So I was saying earlier that you see, if I click on run and I say run from the web application, we have different options, or maybe run from a desktop application. It depends on what you are testing. But of course, because this is a web application, let's just say this one, and we click on run. What would happen is that you now, this pop-up, this thing would pop up here. And as I said before, these are my steps. So you click the first one, which says passed. Maybe this one failed. You click X, and then you comment. What are you expecting? Expected results successful. Expected results. What are we supposed to? Email address. Maybe email address invalid. You can't say that actually. You are supposed to put a valid email address, or maybe email not accepted. Something like that for testing sake. Let's just say email not accepted, or email not recognized, despite the fact that we've put everything we are supposed to do. So this is not got nothing to do with us. We put in the right email address. It's still not accepting the email, and maybe password, let's just say passed. Apparently, the thing is, once you are testing and you got to this step that you failed, to be honest, there's no point testing all this again. I won't test. So if I'm testing my first step and my first step passed, for example, and this is my second step maybe, let's say this passed as well, then my third step failed. I won't bother doing the fourth step, because you cannot, this whole test cannot be passed anyway. So the fact that these two steps passed, and then maybe this one failed, and then maybe this one failed as well, you cannot pass the test irrespective, because remember, it's a test that consists of 4 steps. That step 1 is not the only test that needs to be completed within this step and within this test. You have to complete the whole test for it to be a complete passed test. So even if you have 2 steps in there that passes, the remaining failed, you still have to mark it as failed. So let's say, for example, this passed, this passed, this passed, and this failed. The last bit failed. You still fail the test. And that's why it's good to break your tests down into steps. And this one, as soon as you do that, apparently, I think I was talking about recording. Hold on. So capture screenshot. This is good. So you know, earlier I was talking about, I'm not sure whether Azure has something to capture the screenshot. Yes, it does. This says capture screenshot. So this can actually capture. Press it. Install prerequisite. Before you can capture screenshot recording, you will need to install test and feedback extension. Okay, fine. This needs to be installed. Test and feedback extension. I'm not sure whether I can install this, but just in case, I don't want I don't want long process, so I'm just going to leave it. But of course, there's a way we can actually capture the screenshot. The screenshot will show exactly what you are doing. And then it's not just these screenshots. If you click on capture screenshot, I'm sure you can just actually go to where you want to capture. Maybe you wouldn't want to capture your defect management tool. You want to be capturing your gift rate website because that's what you're testing, and you want to be capturing that process that failed as in particular, where you click the secure login and the secure login failed. So for all these steps, for example, all this has passed. Now after doing that, what you do now is save and you close. And of course, you have your failed step. So that's how you run your test. You come here within the test plan. Within your test plan, click on your test plan, come to test, depending on the test that you put here. Remember, you have a lot of tests here. We've just used only these two, for example, for example's sake. But then if you come here, depending on the number of tests in here, the login says one test in here. So depending on the number of tests, you just click it and then you run that test using either of these tabs. But in this particular instance, it's not a desktop application, it's a web application. You click run, you get your pop-up, and then you now start ticking off what passed, what failed, what step. Meanwhile, as you are doing this, log into the email, click on login button, you go to your gift rates website here, you click on login. So you perform the action as well as recording exactly what you got whilst performing the action. Right, so any other questions? So I'm just trying to look at the questions. Any other questions? Is there any question that I haven't asked? No, okay. Yes, we do have to write our test cases. Are those acceptance criteria stated? Yes, the acceptance criteria is usually stated in the requirement document. If you did the first assignment I did, I sent you some requirements and I stated exactly what the requirement says. Of course, what the requirement says is actually the acceptance criteria. Yeah, TFS is the same but as Azure DevOps, but TFS is Azure DevOps is an upgrade version of TFS with more functionalities and stuff. I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between the two, but I know TFS is outgoing. Azure DevOps is the in thing now. So I would, if I was you, I would go and do a more in-depth tutorial on Azure and how to use it on YouTube. And as soon as you do that, you can write that on your CV, to be honest. But of course, for people who will be doing the internship, they will get more hands-on. Would come to a stage whereby we can create accounts for people. People can actually do a whole lot of testing using the Azure application. Of course, the practitioners of the school will decide that. So yes, HPQC is still being used. Like I said, it depends on the organization. HPQC, ALM HPQC is a very expensive tool. And these days, because testing is evolving, it depends on what you can integrate it with. Some people want it to integrate with Selenium. I don't know whether it still does, but I think it depends on the organization. But most companies now, because of the robust of the system within Azure, you can do so many things with the Azure DevOps. It's not just testing you use it for. You can do a whole host of things, but you have the test management tool in there. So I think most companies are using Azure for everything, for hosting, for storage, for testing, for all sorts, for clients, for server, whatever. They can do a whole lot of stuff. You can read, actually do your reading on Azure DevOps. You know it's a robust system. So that's why most companies are purchasing the Azure DevOps rather than Jira or HPQC. I think it has a limit as well, but I think it depends on what you are using it for. Yes, we still need to write test cases. Can we send scenario? Yeah, we can actually send our scenarios from the Excel spreadsheet. That's the same thing. We've written it before. So it depends on, like I said, depends on the organization. Some people use Excel spreadsheets. Anyway, you write your test cases in the Excel spreadsheet. And when you do your testing, you just test and you record your defect, your maybe pass fail. You create an Excel spreadsheet, puts a column in there, you know, to say whether pass fail without necessarily using a test test management tool. But at the same time, there are various test management tools that people can get on the internet that are free. TestLink, for example, I think. TestLink, TestRail, you can use them. They use the free trial for like a month or something. And I think it depends on the number of users as well. Can we generate test summary reports? Yes, we can. I think I answered this question. Is it possible to move test cases in Azure to Excel DevOps? Yes. Scenarios. Yeah, I think I've answered. Can we use this tool for all methodologies? I think we can. So most methodologies, the Agile methodology will be used. You will use that mainly from the board, the product backlog, the Scrums, the Agile, and then the test plan will be used for more conservative kind of testing, waterfall, V-model, and stuff. So yes, we can. Please, can we assign? No, we don't assign so depends on. Can we assign? Can we assign a defect to a developer? Is that the question? So basically, depends on. I would say yes to that because my defects at work, I assign them to developer. I think you would have stated that in your test plan who a particular defect goes to. So depending on what you are testing, the functionality you are testing, some would have said give it to a provider, and the provider would have been set up, external provider or supplier. They would have been set up on the system on your test management tool, for example. They would have been set up. So depending on what the defect says, or the type of defect it is, or the type of application or functionality it affects, you will assign it to them. So whoever you assign the defect to, remember your test plan. When I was talking about test plan, I spoke about roles and responsibilities. So you would have assigned it, you will assign it to whoever is supposed to be looking at the defect. You would have decided who you are assigning it to long before you start testing. So it's not when you start testing, you now start looking, oh, who do I give this defect to? No, you would have decided the defect goes to this person. They would have been set up on your test management tool or your defect management tool. They would have been set up in there, so you can just assign to them. All you now need, and some defect management tools, some automatically generate an email. So when you assign defects to people, it automatically sends an email to them to say yes, there's a defect that's been generated for them. So they will have that is a form of alert. And I'm sure Azure can do that as well, but I'm not too sure I know that functionality. Yeah, then also, can you show us how to assign defects? Yeah, so in this case, I would have assigned defects, but like I said, I'm the only user on this. It's only one user. We haven't created another user for this, simply because it's just a sample that we adopted to, so I will be able to show how to use it. But if you want to learn more in terms of assigning functionality, if you go onto YouTube, you can, I bet you'll be able to see that. So do we need to add test data? So the test data, no, we don't necessarily need to add test data into our steps. However, you can add test data to your steps just in case, it might be in terms of number. Remember, the test data in most cases, your test data, you have to create it into your test environment. However, depending, if you just want to say, maybe, for example, you might say, oh, this is the number I used, or this is the text I used, or this is a permutation or composition I used, for example. You might want to document that, yes, you can actually write that within your test cases. Say, for example, log on to the Giftrit website and input username. You can actually just take the username that you used. Maybe you are logging in, you are supposed to register 100 candidates, for example. You can say username so and so used. You can write that down in an Excel spreadsheet just for you to remember that that's what you used for testing. So yes, you can put your test data in your test in your steps. Can you unblock the little box in the address bar? I don't know what you mean. Little box in the address bar. I'm not sure who asked that question. I don't know what that means. Sorry. Maybe you can. So what about the captcha? We don't normally test captcha. So if it was the test environment, there's a test environment for the Giftrit application itself. It will not have a captcha. Captcha is just used to validate specific websites. So it's not something you can actually automate. and so that's why we don't use it. So the site I took it is a live site. It's not a test site. If we look at the test site itself, it will not have the captcha. So should we indicate that they are valid data? Should we indicate that they are valid data we are entering? I'm not sure. Oh, sorry, is this in terms of the boundary value analysis? Yes, if that's the question. I'm assuming that's the question. Yes, that's the answer to that. Input mobile number. Okay. Right. So in okay. So in the absence of any other question, is there any other question, please? Sorry, what question was this? What about Jira? Is there a project on Azure DevOps we are going to do? Yes, there would be a project on Azure DevOps. So the project you'll be doing basically for people who, like I said, this will be the last class because it's just a manual. It's an introduction to manual testing for people who would be chosen for the internship. Testing will now be done in a more. It will be more comprehensive than this. But the proprietor of the school will give you more details on that. And yes, we'll be doing many projects. We'll be testing. We might be testing the gift reach site, the testing site in full, and doing this as a project. Remember, we have business analysts, project managers, so that's the aim of the school. But if you are chosen for the internship, that's what you'll be doing. You'll be doing full hands-on testing. It won't just be me doing this. You have access to the account and everything. Then what about, yes, I did say it's the last class, because it's just an introduction. As you can see, the class is large, and the school wants to select, it's best to select a few people who are dedicated and passionate and want to take testing as a profession. And the thing Blue Sky Citadel does most is to groom those people, and we've had testimonies of people getting jobs, which is not just because I wanted to say this. In the last 2 days, we've got people who had jobs from the last class. So this is just an introduction, and that's why the class is the last class. However, people who have been chosen for internship, they will be communicated. I mean, they will be informed sooner or later about the internship and what form it will take. And of course, the class will be a little lesser than this. And of course, it will be people who will do assignments and who will be dedicated, and of course, go on to get the jobs. But there's always a second chance for people who don't make the internship this time around. So what about Jira? Jira is another tool as well. Jira might be used. Jira is more a defect management tool than a test management tool. But then also, sorry, before I say that, if you want to take part in the induction, in the internship, attend. There's actually a workshop and a career fair on Sunday. You can attend that. If you belong to any group, I'm sure you belong to the testing group or to the BA group or to the other group, maybe project management. They would have the administrator will actually post the details of the workshop. So there's a workshop on Sunday and a career fair on Sunday for people who, for everybody. I would just say for everybody, because there are some people on this forum, maybe they still don't know whether to do testing or to go for the BA courses or go for the project management courses. And as I'm being informed, the admin has already posted the details of the career fair. So it's a matter of scrolling up, or scrolling up and see the details. So, and the career fair is on Sunday. It's open to everyone who wants to take testing or any other course, but I will say testing, to be honest, testing as their career. And I didn't know whether from the beginning, I'm not sure I showed you. Most of you don't know about testing, but I think from the beginning I must have gone through I'm not sure I did that, but anyway. Yeah, what is the next? Sorry, I wanted to say something, but I decided not to say it. I don't think I wanted it to be recorded on that. So, right, when is the next manual test the organization will run? I don't know when the next testing class will be, but I'm sure it will be pretty soon. Remember, we do this on a year-to-year basis, but maybe the next 6 months or something. Because now that we've done the manual test, if you are qualified for the internship or if you are chosen for the internship, we will now do hands-on manual automation. So it's end-to-end, get your hands dirty kind of testing. You'll be involved in everything. It's not just the tutor that will speak. Of course, the tutor will come and speak, but then you have to do homeworks and stuff like that, get CV ready and everything. So that's why the workshop and the career fair is actually important. So it's not just attending these classes, it's attending the classes, the internship, then attending if you are chosen for the induction, no, not the induction, I'm sorry, if you are chosen if you have been chosen for the internship, then you now do your CV and of course get your hands dirty, that kind of a thing, do CV, and then you start to do exams. I keep saying do exams, do the ICEP foundation exam is important. That gives you confidence. It's £190. You can do it in 2 weeks. If you answer past questions, everyone passes it. It gives you the confidence. So if you do that as well, you have the confidence. In maximum 6 months, you'll be looking for work. In maximum 1 year, maximum, you get a job. Maximum. Any other questions, please? So once again, I will apologize for the long delay this night and long pause. I was just trying to get my test run to run, my test to run. I wanted to show you that, and I'm happy I finally did. So I would apologize for that. If there's no other question, I want to call it a day. Thank you very much, and I appreciate. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you all on Sunday for the career fair and the workshop. Thank you. Goodbye.